So before Louis Armstrong was the Louis Armstrong we knew, he was actually this young cornet player that worked at the Brick House, which was this club in Gretna, Louisiana. That's where he met Daisy Parker, this sex worker with hypnotizing eyes and thick thighs. Louis recalled this one night when he was just fiending to be with Daisy. I'm guessing this was like the first time that they would, So he rushed to her after work, and when she got undressed, she took off her fake hips. Like those kind of BBLs you could purchase off Amazon? Right. So he said, quote, "As much as I've been admiring this chick in her shape, here she comes bringing me a pair of water wings." But he got over it, though. They started seeing each other, and, he became a regular customer. And soon he realized he was falling in love. But that was also around the time that he discovered she had a common law husband. So one time when Louis went to Daisy's house in the middle of their foreplay, her husband came home. Louis grabbed his hat and took off running while that man beat Daisy. Yeah. He convinced himself in that moment that he was not going to do this again. So a month later, Daisy went to his house and basically begged him to come back to her. Because if you couldn't tell, this was no longer a client relationship anymore. They talked it over at a local hotel and made a decision. The very next day, on March 19th, 1918, Louis and Daisy went to City Hall and got married. Louis was about 16 and Daisy was about 19. So a marriage that was so obviously inspired by lust definitely had some major problems. One, his mother didn't approve. Two, they were unhoused initially. And three, and probably the biggest problem, was that they were emotionally and physically abusive to each other. Louis said that basically the way he had to, quote, get along with her was to, quote, beat the hell out of her every night and make love in order to get some sleep. So, of course, the chaos in this marriage basically pushed Louis in the direction of other women. And when Daisy found out about it, she would threaten to kill him. Like, this one time, Louis said he woke up and Daisy had, quote, had a big bread knife laying on his throat. One time at the funeral of one of his Third Ward friends, Black Benny, Daisy saw Louis chatting with this girl that he was cheating on her with. And she immediately ran up on him and tried slashing his face with a razor. He ran away, but another friend that was also conversing with the two of them got caught in the crossfire as Daisy slashed his butt. And that wasn't enough. Daisy found bricks and started throwing them at Louis. Louis picked up a brick and threw it at Daisy and actually hit her in the stomach. Police came and actually ended up arresting her because she kicked the cop in the face. Mind you, all of this is happening while the funeral is going on. In summer of 1922, Louis was offered a job in Chicago. He was excited to be away from Daisy. Once he got settled up there, he would work with a pianist in King Oliver's band named Lil Hardin, or Hot Miss Lil as she was known. You might have actually heard of her. She's kind of known to be kind of a unsung woman in jazz. Well, she was about 3 years older than Louis and a little bit more established. Her first thoughts about this infamous little Louis was that he was fat, he couldn't dress, and he had bangs. Like, what is this, honey? So Lil was everything that Daisy wasn't. She was educated, a musician. She was someone that understood the man that Louis was becoming. And she didn't need him to provide for her. Like, she made good money on her own, $100 a week. Lil was giving INDEPENDENT. Do you know what that means? Okay. She also treated him as a mentee or a protege because she saw a lot of potential in his musical talent. She became his unofficial stylist too because he really just dressed like a poor boy from New Orleans and people were making fun of him. Though there was an obvious power dynamic in their relationship, they confided in each other and eventually a romance developed. Now, one thing they had in common was that they were both married previously. Well, Louis was still married, but both of their marriages burned out really fast. Once he found newfound interest in Lil, he knew he needed to get a divorce immediately to be done with Daisy for good. He started the proceedings in fall of 1923, and 2 days before Christmas, the divorce was granted after 6 years of marriage. Now, 6 weeks later, on February 5th, 1924, the Chicago Defender announced that Lil and Louis had gotten married. Come back tomorrow and I will tell you all about Louis and Lil Armstrong. The two, some would deem the first couple of jazz. Now, if you love Black weddings, Black marriages, and Black history, you're absolutely going to love it here. So don't forget to follow us everywhere you can, especially the Tube of You, because the entire episode is already there. See you in the pews.